Yeah, I don't think I could be with somebody that makes less than me. I think
Of
that would be
course,
a problem.
hypergamy 101.
It's just I work really hard, and so
Mm-hmm.
I just want somebody else that also works really hard at whatever it is that they're doing, or and whether and just in.
You know what, man? She's screwed. This is a video from Rich Cooper Clips. Men don't want me because of my tattoos.
Hey, Tammy.
Hello,
So, what kind of dudes are you attracted to?
me. I would say dominant alpha males. That's not usually what's attracted to me, but that is typically what I am attracted to and would like to date or go out with and find. I'm not on social media, but I have tried online dating, and that's been not successful.
What happens when you use online dating? I mean, like, are you able to match with the guys that you're attracted to?
Sometimes, but not often. There's been a couple times where a lot of times they will seem a certain way until you actually get out in public with them or get to know them a little bit more.
Mm.
Um, and I think also a large problem is a lot of men might think that they're dominant or alpha and they're not, or they might present themselves that way, but they're still living with their mom at 43. Another one that I dated had lived in a sober house living, which I think is awesome for him, but he's obviously not ready to date. But
Mm.
he didn't tell me that until date 5. So,
What is silver house living? I don't know what that
like
is.
a sober home living.
Oh,
So,
sober home. Okay, so
yeah,
he's
he's
an
like a
alcoholic. Got it.
recovering alcoholic or
Okay, so here's the thing. For her, the average male probably isn't going to be that attracted to her. She's going to need a guy who does have a lot of tattoos, is like a biker, and he's going to talk about it later in this clip. But those are going to be the types of guys that probably are willing to give her a chance. But a lot of those guys perhaps are alcoholics, drug addicts, have a crazy past, criminals, whatever. But the problem is the average guy is going to perceive her to be just about as desirable as a woman is going to perceive the 43-year-old man living with his mother. She, in a man's eyes, average man, most men. I'm not talking about these tatted up biker men, because those are the men who she's probably going to have to niche down in and go after. But I'm talking about most men are going to perceive a woman like this who's 40, tatted up, even has a tattoo on her forehead, I believe, with 2 kids, and is, I believe, barren. She's going to say later in this clip. Most men are going to perceive her to be just as desirable as most women will perceive that 43-year-old living at home with his mom. They're going to perceive her that desirable. So she kind of is the equivalent to that 43-year-old living with his mother. And that would be really hard for her to hear. I understand, but Rich isn't going to tell her that. But in a man's eyes, she is that equivalent.
addict, which
Okay.
that's great. I'm proud of him. However, I don't want to date him.
Okay.
Um, so
Do you have any kids? You ever been married?
I have never been married. I do have 2 children from when I was young. They are 19 and 23. They live in the city on their own in college, one for nursing, one undergraduate for psychology. So they are super smart, but very independent and, not home and in my life all the time, but we're still very close.
Okay. So, what's the ask here? I mean, you're just looking for clarity on why. I mean, you're looking for some help, some advice.
Probably a little all of the above. I'm not sure. I've taken myself off of online dating. I did it for about a year and a half. I'm thinking about jumping back into it, but I'm not sure if maybe I'm using wording wrong or presenting myself wrong. And I've really tried. Like I go to the gym and I smile and I'm nice and I get comments from people. Men that I'm attracted to tend to treat me like their little sister. The last person I dated called me accommodating. I don't know if that is a good thing. That I'm helpful or nice, or everybody goes, "Oh, Tammy's so sweet," but
Sounds
they
like a
don't
friend
want
zone sort of
to out.
thing that women do to guys.
Well, those aren't bad qualities in a woman. It's just they're not attracted to you. They're not interested. So they're kind of letting you down nicely by complimenting you. It's not that those traits and qualities are bad. It's just, they're not into you. They're letting you down easy.
Yeah, but they do. That's what I end up in.
So you
So
don't
that
get.
to me is like the sweet, sweet little Tammy.
Um, Like, have you looked into trying to get them removed, or is that like utterly pointless
That
because it's
would
so much work?
I did remove. I had some tattoo work on my face, like on the top of my forehead area. I did get that removed. It took 2 years and over $2,000, and it's still not complete. It's still blotchy.
How much did you
Um,
pay for all the tattoos over the time you had your body inked?
I don't really know. And it was a long time ago in my early 20s, probably too much. A lot of it we would do with like trade. I had a friend that I used to own a hair salon a long time ago. And so we
Mhm.
would trade between that. And they were the tattoos in that time. I got a lot of attention for, but because I wasn't raised very properly, I didn't understand the difference between good attention and bad attention.
Mhm.
And and I was just very young and made poor choices. But
All right. So she said, and this is what we expect from a woman. I'm not trying to attack this Tammy woman here, but do you think she would have received the message well in her youth? I would imagine she was quite rebellious. And so if someone were to try to tell her, don't get those tattoos, it's not going to attract the type of people you want. I don't think she would have received that message well. I think she would have gave him the finger and said, "No, I'm in my rebellious stage. I'm going to do what I want." I don't necessarily think it's because someone didn't teach her, "Oh, those tats are going to attract the wrong type of people." And then her younger self would have been like, "You know what? You're right. I'm not going to do it." I don't think it would have been that easy. I think she probably was around the wrong crowd. She was probably in her rebellious stage. The people around her were encouraging her. So you kind of see her evade accountability a little bit, and it's to be expected. But I kind of have a hard time believing she would have received that message well at that age.
once I started listening to your podcast and several others, I kind of realized I think that was something that was kind of holding me back a lot from being able to date, is because, people just, a lot of men just don't want to date somebody that's so heavily tattooed, and it'd be
That, and they've
impossible.
and they've overtly stated that, like they've just said that I'm not into tattoos.
No, I mean, a couple of them have, but I'm kind of guessing that. And it's kind of out of actions. Like, I wouldn't have a problem necessarily finding somebody to take me out and want to be with me, like, intimately. I don't think that is what I would have a problem with. But nobody wants to, like, take me to parties or take me to a charity event or take me home to meet their mom. And I just think, after listening to a lot of people and kind of trying to figure out what men are looking for and want and what they desire in a woman, I'm kind of making the assumption that that's a big thing that's holding me back.
Hmm.
I believe she's probably going after like the guys that aren't into the tattoos. Like I think she's in that phase where she's leaning into the more men who have their shit together. That's the men she wants now. But those men aren't really interested in women with a bunch of tattoos. But again, I think if she were to shift her strategy and go after the men who are tatted up, come from that sort of lifestyle and background, she would do herself a favor. But it seems like she doesn't want those men because maybe they're felons, maybe they don't make that much, maybe they're still using drugs. She's well past that epiphany phase, and her hypergamy is hypergaming, and she's having a hard time.
Getting them all removed, you're kind of in a tough spot. I mean, like the problem a lot of women face is they'll get to your age and they'll say, okay, I just want a nice guy. I just want to. I mean, like, what did you define it as? The guys that you're attracted to?
Dominant
Because
alphas.
I'm not attracting the type of men that I'm attracted to, and you're defining the guys that you're attracted to as like the high value alpha guys. Like, what's a high value alpha guy in your view? Like, could you
I
kind
mean,
of paint a picture?
yeah, and I'm very realistic, so I know, I'm not going to be pulling somebody that's a millionaire. I understand that, but somebody that just has a steady job, somebody that has a decent
Steady
life.
job making how much money roughly?
I mean, I would really prefer over 60 a year. Um, I would like
That's not a
somebody
very
that
high bar, though. I
I
mean, a lot of
know,
women
but
nowadays are like, oh, he's got to have, 6-figure income.
yeah, I don't think I could be with somebody that makes less than me. I think
Of
that would be
course,
a problem.
hypergamy 101.
It's just I work really hard, and so
Hmm.
I just want somebody else that also works really hard at whatever it is that they're doing, or and just in
You know what, man? She's screwed. She's at this point, and she's still saying, I won't date a guy who makes less money than me. You know what? Yeah, it's hard to have sympathy when I hear that. But again, this is hypergamy. This is women. This is how they are. This is their mating strategy. But my God, you're still hanging on to that, huh?
Life in general, and it's hard to find somebody that's like that, that's willing to just put in work, whether it's go to the gym or explore a hobby, or if there's something they're interested in,
Yep.
not just talking about it, but actually going and doing it.
She's screwed.
And
She's
and
screwed.
it's hard because I've worked so hard, even though I wouldn't call myself like the high value woman, I guess, but I've worked so hard to get where I am at, that I would really like to be with somebody that could at least equal that, if not better it.
Yeah, women don't want to go across and down; they want to go across and up, generally speaking. So, I mean, what you're running into, I'm assuming you're dating guys your age or older.
Yes, I have dated a 33-year-old, and that was actually oddly probably the better one.
Mhm.
Really great guy, owns his own home, motorcycle, boat, truck, in the petroleum business. And we actually really enjoy one another's company. And I think he likes me and I like him. However, he's been very respectfully honest with me that he wants to get married and have kids,
Mhm.
several kids. And so he would ideally really prefer a younger woman. So in that case, it wasn't the tattoos that were holding me back. It was the fact that I was 40 and he doesn't want to date a barren 40-year-old. And he could absolutely have a 25-year-old girl. So, but
Are you
Sounds like she was one of his plates that he was spinning.
he's
finding that with the guys your age too that are in their 40s, like they're looking for younger women?
It depends. It depends who they are. So I have found that a little bit in men. Usually, I guess what you would classify as your more high value man, they'll date me. They don't really want to long term date me. They do
Mhm.
want, younger women. I kind of have a hard time just finding people to even just date. So
Well, I mean, like once you start going through the dating pool and you realize about half of it or more is going to lean in a direction that you're not attracted to, the guys that you defined as carrying crystals in their pockets with loads of debt with an art history degree. So you cut those guys out of the equation. Then you take the guys out of the equation that have, they're they're in the sober homes, the alcoholics anonymous, they're living with their moms, they don't make more money than you. They still live with their ex-wives trying to
Those are the exact men she's going to have to lean into. Seriously.
sort through the divorce. They've got four small children and you don't want to deal with that. Like you're dealing with a very, 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 very narrow dating pool, right?
yeah,
So for you to kind of like find something that's going to tick off some boxes, you're going to have to cast a wider net and start to make some concessions in
And lower your standards.
areas that you've been unwilling to in the past, perhaps, if you know what I'm saying, right? Because I mean, like most guys that I deal with in the high net worth category, like the guys that are the entrepreneurs, the professionals, the doctors, the lawyers that are making like 250,000 plus, for the most part, they're not looking for women in their 40s, let alone a woman in their 40s that's a single mom with a couple. I mean, your kids are almost adults now, but you're still a single mom, basically, covered in head to toe with tattoos. And one of the things that you've experienced, I mean, if you have to go to an event and there's an evening dress, it's like, okay, do I want to bring, plate one or plate two? Plate two's
yeah,
got tats all over her and plate one doesn't, and, sort of thing. So, I mean, there's certain things that you can do. And, I always tell guys, like, try to max out your looks where you can. Like if you're fat, lose the weight. If you've got social calibration issues, work on that. You don't seem to have that issue. You're well written. You seem to speak quite well. It sounds like you don't have you know much going on that's problematic as far as red flags, except for the whole tattoo thing, which is going to send a lot of guys off. I don't know. I mean, cast a wider net would be my biggest piece of advice. And if you have the time and money, maybe work towards getting rid of or minimizing a lot of the exposed stuff.
Yeah, the tattoo removal is pretty much useless. That shit doesn't really takes forever. It's really expensive, and you're still left with like blobs of color. And she has so many tattoos. Those efforts would be pointless. They would be futile, and she's gonna have to deal with it. There's really no point in trying to remove all that because it's not gonna happen. She needs to lean into, if she doesn't want to die alone, she needs to lean into and lower her standards She needs to lean into the men who are also tatted up, have a crazy past, maybe are felons, maybe aren't, maybe aren't. Maybe these dudes are done. They've done the family thing. They've had the kids. They're divorced, and they are tatted up, and they did get their shit together. And probably she's gonna have to find her looks match as well, right? Because she's older. She is older. So, and she's not a super attractive woman. But again, she still wants that hypergamy. She wants a dude who makes as much as her, preferably more. It's gonna be tricky for her. She needs to lower her standards, man.
I'm like, for me personally, you're going to get a skewed opinion because I'm not a big fan of tattoos, right? Never
Yes.
have been, never will be. You know, the way that I've always framed it, and I think I mentioned in my book, I don't know if you read it, but it's like putting bumper stickers all over a Lamborghini. A Lamborghini is a beautiful thing. I think a woman's a beautiful thing. And then when you put them all over the place, and I've got cousins that have tats, you know, down their arms and sort of stuff, and they fade after 20 years and they just don't look good, right? So I've never been a big fan from that perspective. And I think there's a good chunk of the guys that share that same and echo that same sentiment. But there's also guys that love tats. Like I've seen guys covered in tats as well. And I'm sure there's got to be some of them out there that aren't drowning in debt with crystals in their pockets that probably have some money and a motorcycle and a boat as well, too, right?
I would hope so. It just seems like that's kind of that does seem to be kind of, I would say, musicians, people that do a lot of drugs and alcohol,
Maybe
artists.
try to find those reformed guys
Those,
that aren't.
those are the people that tend to, when I'm on dating apps, that will reach out to me
Yep.
and want to talk to me. And that's fine. They could live their life the way they'd like, but it's just not somebody I'd put time and energy into.
Cast a little bit of a broader net and, you know, give a few of these guys at least a sniff test and a coffee date or a drink and see how it goes and see if there's anything that sparks out of that. But I mean, if you're going to limit it very tight, one of the things you said early on too is you're not really dating that much. I mean, if you want to score goals, you got to get on the ice, right? Put on the equipment, put on the gear, you know.
I did join, like, that's why I joined the gym 6 months ago. So I joined the gym 6 months ago. I've been trying to volunteer outside of my regular job. So my regular job is just all women. It's almost all women that work there. So
And here's the thing. Here, listen to what she's saying. So she's putting herself out there to be approached. Is she gonna do the approaching? I doubt it. But it sounds like she's going to the gym. She's volunteering in these other areas, and she wants men to approach her. Who is going to who's gonna approach her, man? Yeah, I really don't know how women like this are gonna find a man. Dating apps. She's saying they aren't working out. I don't know why. She's probably just being used. If you've ever been on a dating app and you go and you look at like the older ages, these women are, it's sad, bro. It's really sad. Some of them are the most delusional I've ever seen. I would like look at their bios, just look at their pictures. They are demanding, they are entitled, they are not that attractive, they are overweight, they are old. Some of them do have like tattoos. They look not great. I mean, it's depressing. It's really depressing. So I can understand that the men who are going on there and matching with these types of women, they don't want anything more than just a night with them. And that's that. And women like her realize that. They realize this. And so now she's like, yeah, let me put myself out there. I'm going to go volunteer. I'm going to go to the gym for men to approach me. Well, the same thing's going to happen. Maybe some dudes are going to approach you, and maybe you get lucky and a guy actually wants to take you seriously. And that would be great for her. But once you get these men who approach you, you better start lowering your standards. You better stop demanding that he makes $60K a year, and you better be okay if he makes $30K a year. That you are no longer in a position to where you can necessarily be calling the shots and qualifying people. You better be grateful as fuck when a man goes out of his way to try to spark up something with you, and then you go into the disqualifying stage. You're like, well, you don't make as much money as me. Well, you know, I don't really like your past. Well, you know, you're living with your mom. Well, you're coming off of a sober living. I'm gonna wait for the next guy to approach me. And you're gonna do the same thing over and over again. And I just, in a way, I do feel bad for her, but in a way, I also don't, because the world is brutal, and I'm sure she was overlooking plenty of dudes when she was in her prime, and obviously she deemed some guy good enough to sleep with her and to sleep with him, and they had 2 kids. And And now she's in this phase where she's having a hard time. And yeah, it sucks. But welcome to life. Welcome to the world where, yeah, your decisions affect you. It is what it is, man. It is what it is.
If we have men, they're married. So I tried to start doing other volunteer things and go on like little like 5K runs and stuff with other people and try to be more active. And so I'll find things purposely to try and go do that men will be at.
And approach you.
So I've tried that as well.
Go and fish where the fish are.
Do they approach you?
They may not be, they may not have the right bait on the hook for you, though, right? That's why I said cast a wider net and get out there a little bit more. Hey, listen, I appreciate you, sharing this experience. And if anything, I've warned for a long time, to younger women not to tap themselves up too crazily.
No.
And here we are today. You're 20 years down the road, and you're like, saying to yourself, like, where do I find guys that I want to be with? Because I'm stuck with guys that I'm generally not attracted to. So, one part of this is there's a lesson here.
Yeah, not just with men, with career opportunities, it's a huge regret. And if I had a magic wand and could just take it all off and have my freckly redhead skin back, I would. So, yeah, I would definitely, if you're a younger woman watching this, not get tattooed.
Yeah, and that does suck. And in a way, I do feel bad for her because I have a big heart and I'm a good guy, and you better notice it, and you should have noticed it. But that does suck, missing out on career opportunities and stuff like that, and it sucks, Tammy. That's brutal, but we live and we learn. And lower your standards. You need to lower your standards a bit, and stop saying that a man has to make as much as you, because you are no longer in your 20s and even early 30s. You don't really get to disqualify anymore. You better start looking for reasons to qualify them. The game has shifted. The tides have turned. The shoe is on the other foot. It is a different game, and you need to adjust. But anyways, if you enjoyed that video, leave a like.